attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, calling to order Historic Landmarks Commission, August 5th, 2020. So we'll start with the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. I will begin the roll call. Chair Grumbine?
Here.
Vice Chair House?
Here.
Commissioner Drury?
Here.
Commissioner Edmonds?
Here.
Commissioner Lenvik?
Here.
Commissioner Mahan?
Here.
Commissioner Uli?
Here.
Commissioner Vena? I think you are on mute, Commissioner Vena.
Here. Here.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
All right, great. All right, so now we will go on to public comment. So any member of the public can address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within our jurisdiction that is not scheduled for this agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ellen Kokinda. If you wish to speak on general items that are not agendized today, please raise your hand using the hand icon and I'll call on you and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. And I do not see anyone who has raised their hand. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Okay, so now we'll go on to the approval of the minutes for Historic Landmarks Commission meeting July 22nd, 2020. Have a motion?
So moved. A second.
All right, moved by Drury, second by Uli. Under discussion, edits?
Mr. Chair,
Changes? Commissioner Mayhem.
that's on page 10 or on page 7, item 10. The issue is about the trellis. The trellis has the 3 structural elements: the girders, the beams, and the lattice. So I think that this sentence should read that some commissioners would like the girder ends of the trellis to have more traditional profile. I think we were talking about the girder ends, not the beam ends.
Yes. Okay. That's my memory as well. So that is more clear. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Uli.
Yeah.
Do you have edits? Oh no,
I'm just
Commissioner House. Sorry. Yes.
Mr. Chair. That same item 10 on page 7, comment 6, I would suggest revising that to read: the plaster material is acceptable. However, the commission is concerned about the need to seal the plaster for longevity and cleanliness.
I know there was discussion about sealing it as well, but I think that the cleanliness side of things may have been, even with the sealed plaster, I think there was some commissioner concern of just it looking dirty. And was it you, Commissioner Lenvik, that had that concern? I couldn't remember who it was.
Yes, that was my concern. I recall there was a code or ordinance provision requiring painting, and I believe I was corrected on that by someone on the commission.
And I believe that was me, that the code says it must be sealed. It doesn't say it has to be painted.
Yeah, and so I guess my question for it then is, for clarity, is the painting seemed to be something of the tied to the cleanliness argument, even when there's raw plaster, because even if you do it by code, there still are plenty of buildings around with plaster that's not painted. And if there was a commissioner's concern of the cleanliness of it, because it not being easily cleaned off, even if it was sealed, which I'm assuming all the plaster in town is sealed, that is of recent recent making. So I want to just make sure that we capture the commissioner's concern with Commissioner Lenvik. So Commissioner Lenvik, was that where you were going with it? That you were just worried about it being the sealed and protected?
I was concerned that it should be painted, because I feel that traditional exterior finish is either painted or whitewashed and not left raw plaster with open pores. Sealing still leaves the pores open, susceptible to dirt and whatever. So my hope was that the applicant would paint.
Okay, so and that's what I was getting from your comment as well. So even if it's sealed to meet code, you were still concerned that you would still have rather see it painted, which I think this summary does a good job of summarizing that conversation, because even with the sealing idea, Commissioner Lenvick was still concerned about it getting dirty or whatever, and painting it would keep it a little cleaner. So.
Yes,
that right?
I think
we should leave this as is. I think it captures what we talked about.
I think that the motion, the item 6 reads, the plaster material is acceptable, no question there. However, the commission's concerned about paint longevity and cleanliness. Well, we're not concerned about paint longevity. We're concerned about
that's true.
We're concerned about the unpainted plasters longevity and cleanliness.
Yeah. Okay. That's true. That's a good point. I think we should change the language to say that unpainted plaster the longevity of unpainted and cleanliness of unpainted plaster. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I just don't want the motion to imply that the applicant has to paint the plaster.
Yeah. I think, as we say, is concerned with I don't think that is a rejection of it. So I think it's
That's fine with me. My only other edit was on comment 8. Trying to get this to pop up. Okay. Insert at the beginning, at some of the balconies, adjust the wrought iron design to be more spiral-like. I don't think it applied to all balconies, did it? I think it was just, he had like A, B, C, and D or something like that. And there was a particular version of the balcony that you had a concern with the spiral or the S-shaped.
Yes, that's right. It was the particularly named balcony with the stiffeners.
So,
I would say the wrought iron stiffener design. We can clarify it that way, because I don't think there was any wrought iron stiffeners that didn't have the swirl. But I could be wrong on that, actually.
Different versions, but yeah, I mean, let's see, what was my adjust the stiffeners. I don't know. I'll let you rephrase it, unless you think it's fine as it is.
Adjust the wrought iron stiffeners that curl. Let's do that. Adjust the wrought iron stiffeners that curl to be more spiral-like, excluding the turning radius on the wrought iron. Excluding the turning radius on the wrought iron stiffeners.
Good luck.
Yeah. Gosh, that is a hard. We'll just say this: adjust the wrought irons, the turned wrought iron stiffeners to be more spiral-like. We'll just leave it at that. I think it was explained and more elaborately in the commentary, and it's a very particular thing.
Mr. Chair, in traditional architecture, Roman or maybe Greek architecture, there's a very specific formula for spirals, and I think that we should refer to the spiral being a traditional spiral.
Okay. Yeah, so I think adding the word traditional will help, because that is what the direction was going towards, with how to explain how the spiral turns slowly at first and then more tightly as it goes in. So I think that if they look at a traditional one, so that'll show them the answer. So let's say adjust wrought iron stiffeners that turn to be more spiral, to be more traditional and spiral-like. Let's do that. I think that conveys the idea clearly. And okay, and then any other, Commissioner Lenvick?
Yes, I have a question of the commission on on page 6, this is the motion regarding the solar panels on top of the parking garage. And when I read item 3, motion item 3, study the views from the alley, paseos, and internal courtyard. I'm not sure that I understand internal courtyard. Am I just missing something, or?
Ms. Plummer, did you have something to add?
Mr. Chair, so when we reviewed the tapes, that was verbatim what was in the motion. You know, I'm not sure if you want to, I would hesitate to elaborate too much more than that, but that was what was in the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Mahan, I think I want to add something to it. I think I remember now what
Mr. Chair, I think that the interior, what do they say, interior or internal courtyards, I think they're referring to that large courtyard that was just designed by Brian Cornell.
Brian Cornell, yeah. The courtyard of the Paseo courtyard.
Yes, and so a person standing away, quite a ways away from the garage would get a better angle at the roof, and we would like to see the structure that holds the solar panels to be set back from that edge. I think that's what we were concerned about.
I totally agree. That's exactly what I remember as well. So why don't we say the Paseo courtyard? So from Paseos and Paseo courtyards. So that it's clear, because they're public. Those are public views. So we'll change it from internal to Paseo courtyard. Or I'm trying to think if there's another courtyard. Let's call it plural courtyards in case there's another Paseo courtyard that we're missing.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Drury.
Michael Drury. Are we talking about the space that Brian Cornell just revamped and where the tour buses go, that big open parking area? I just maybe call it the Granada Paseo. The Granada Paseo. Yeah,
the only thing is it's part of it's hard to, it's difficult because this is such a big building and has so many, the solar panel, it could be, the building itself can be seen from all different angles. If we limit it to just one particular Paseo and or courtyard, I'm a little bit worried that we're tying ourselves down. And we were saying from the Paseos, because there's, different Paseos coming in from different directions. There's at least 3.
Okay.
But they're all part of that system, and I think you're right. I think it probably would get captured by Granada, but I'm a little hesitant because the idea is from public
not to limit yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So Commissioner Lendick, anything?
Yes. I believe it was on this item that I commented that I hoped that the prior review's comments were made part of this motion and comments as well. Was it not this project, Pilar, that I said that on?
Yes, so Commissioner Lendick, and through the chair, that was your comment. It wasn't articulated in the final motion, but I do recall that you expressed that have these comments from the original motion been addressed? Do they still apply? Do we want to incorporate it or not? But that was not formally included in the motion. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I believe that some of them, part of that discussion was that some of them did not apply any longer because it was a different design, and some of them wouldn't make sense to be folded in as well. Okay, so any other additional edits, changes? All right. So with those adjustments, let's do a roll call and vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. I will begin the roll call vote. Commissioner Drury?
Aye.
Commissioner Lendick?
Yes.
Commissioner Vena,
Aye.
Commissioner House or Vice Chair
Aye.
House,
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Aye.
Commissioner Uli,
Aye.
Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Great. All right, we are on to the approval of the consent calendar for August 5th, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All items today were reviewed by Commissioner Mahan and Commissioner Vena. Item A, 30 West Sola, received project design approval and final approval. And item B, 1431 Olive Street, received final approval.
Great, thank you.
Move to approve the consent.
All right, motion by Uli,
Second by House.
second by House. Okay. Under discussion, any discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. I'll begin the roll call vote. Commissioner Lundvik.
Aye.
Commissioner Vena,
Aye.
Vice Chair House,
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Aye.
Commissioner Uli,
Aye.
Commissioner Drury,
Aye.
Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Great. We are on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, I have a couple announcements. The first one is that next Tuesday, the St. Paul's AME Church will be on the council for final designation as a landmark. So we've always asked one of the commissioners to attend to state to council during public comment why HLC recommended the nomination. Do I have someone that would be willing to come to the council hearing?
I nominate Commissioner Uli. Would you be able to make it?
I'm happy.
But he wrote the nomination, maybe two people.
Okay.
I mean, I think
Well,
Uli
that's
will
what I
be
wanted.
there. I think Uli's going to be there anyway.
All right,
I'm
well,
happy. I'm happy to represent HLC.
okay. Nicole, do you want a second there as well?
Yeah, I think too. Since Uli wrote the nomination, it'd be good to have just someone else also.
Okay, well, I'd be up for if there's not another person that wants to, or if you want me to as the historian side of things.
Yeah,
I'd
that'd be
happy
great.
to.
Great.
Okay.
Also, yesterday we were at City Council. Just they had requested an update on how the process for the historic ordinance that we've been working on, and so I just I don't know if any of you watched, but then we did just we finished in July incorporating all the public comment. It took me a week or two, and then the attorney's office a week or two, and then we sent it to the SHPO's office for their comments, and we've received those back. So I'm incorporating those this week, and then we'll have the city attorney Renee and Irma look at the draft one more time, and then we'll get it back posted for public review in your another hearing at HLC. So that's where we are. And that's that. And I did also want to let you know my title has changed from urban historian to architectural historian. This was a reclassification. I was reclassified from associate planner to project planner recently. So that is why you'll see the change on my title.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Those are my announcements.
All right. Commissioner Edmonds?
Thanks. I need to leave the meeting today at 5, and I will be on vacation during our next meeting. So.
All right, we'll have a fun time while we're miserable. Just kidding.
Oh, God.
Okay, sounds good. And regarding the time frame, we will try to keep this moving. If considering our last item is set for 2:45, I will consider it a total failure if we cannot close off by 5. So But all right. So any other announcements, requests for applicants, continuance and withdrawals, or future agenda items? All right. On to item E, subcommittee reports.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Drury.
I'm going to do a short report on the Delegara Plaza Revitalization Subcommittee meeting of last Friday. The chair of that meeting is City Councilwoman Ms. Sneddon, and we discussed the arcade, which will be used for entertainment. It would be to the right of the City Hall as you look at from the plaza. The trash pickup problems of the restaurants in the back of business along the west side of the plaza is a continuing problem, and we've just put that right back in the planner's lap. There was a suggestion of a kiosk either at the corner of Delegara and the entrance to the old entrance will be to the plaza itself, or in Stork Placita. Movable or not, we don't know yet, but it'll be something like, coffee and, frozen yogurt or whatever. I asked if if they had done any research on tree arrangements in traditional plazas in Spain and Mexico. They hadn't yet. So the trees were just sort of put in around the edge of the plaza. I think we all agree that we needed to have shade in the middle. What else? Restrooms. There will be restrooms, thinking also on the west side of the Stork Placita. And they suggested that there's an option for self-cleaning restrooms that also unlock at certain times. We thought that was a great idea. The architectural style is to be determined, but I believe it'll be determined by us. And the only vehicle access will be garbage trucks and emergency vehicles and service vehicles. And it's going to be, as far as we can tell, they've listened to what we've had to say, and I think it's going to be a real bonus. It's going to be a lovely, lovely plaza. And the one thing I wanted to make clear, or ask the question, and they cleared that up quickly, that all this will come under our review. So nothing will be done without our input. And I think Commissioner Vena has some additional comments. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Vena.
Thank you. I basically recall everything that he said. I only thought that the kiosk was voted down, as a matter of fact, because there's coffee everywhere nearby and businesses and so forth, and I didn't think we needed to replicate that. Other than that, I think everything went along pretty smoothly, and everybody enjoyed themselves. That's all I have.
Yes, we did.
So maybe Commissioner Drury was going for a whiskey kiosk. It's a different type.
Maybe he wants a concession. I don't know.
Well, whiskey and butterscotch sundae kiosk.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other subcommittee reports? Let's see. We had designation subcommittee. Commissioner Ulu, do you want to go into that, or they're obviously going to see some of our recommendations fairly soon. So some of which are already.
You can go ahead and give the report if you like.
Okay, sure. So it was mostly for, it's not all for, no, I should say mostly. It was a couple items of business, but the one was the Mills Act. So we reviewed all the Mills Act, and there's a slight difference now where there's now an overall budget instead of saying 8 slots, and they compete against each other for who gets those 8 slots every year. Instead, there's just sort of a budget, an overall general budget. And so until we hit that, as they come in, we can accept it. If it starts to now go beyond the budget, then we have to look at who doesn't get it. So for now, they all qualified, all the ones that we reviewed qualified, and we have recommended them on. So you'll see that. And then you'll see that come forward. And then we also had an item on for that was in relation to the Black Lives Matter discussions that have been happening in Ms. Hernandez had a working document of for a grant proposal for having a survey and for a survey of Santa Barbara, both specifically for the Black community and also one specifically for the overall that will be hopefully part of the trend that we're doing for additional study of cultures that have participated and contributed to Santa Barbara and might not have been studied as much prior to now. So it's exciting. We had that meeting as well. I think that's it. I think that those are the main items, and those will those things will be coming forward. The grant proposal isn't due until May, so we've got a longer time period for that. But it was good to see it getting going. So, did I miss anything, Robert?
No, other than a cursory review of a nominating form that will be a companion to the
that's right.
Revised ordinance.
That's right. There's initial look at how to get state and federal and everything sort of alignment with our local and how to do that so that we don't lose anything of what we are wanting to do locally and what we want to make sure gets checked locally, but at the same time, at least visually or at least the way in which the data is collected conforms with the state and federal forms so that they can easily be scaled up. A project that's worthy at the local level that might also be worthy at the state and federal level can easily sort of get onto those letter and or process as well. So. All right. Any other subcommittee reports? Okay. With that, let's move on to our first item of business, 1400 Dover Road. It's a resolution of intention. So to adopt a resolution of intention to hold public hearing on October 28th, 2020 to consider structure merit designation of mid-century modern style residence designed by noted architect Luda Maria Riggs, located at 1400 Dover Road. Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, these are just reminding you, this is just setting the date. I did include the first draft of the significance reports. This was constructed in 1963. UCSB has all the original drawings and it really hasn't changed and it has really high integrity, and look forward to bringing this to you to the hearing on October 28th.
Thank you. Okay. So with that, we will open public comment. I guess, no. Do we do public comment for it as well? Yes, sorry. I'm confused. It's been too long.
I know, because they're not really public hearings, but I think you do anyway, just because they're here.
Yeah, okay.
Just setting the date.
So any member of the public wishing to speak on this, please raise your hand. All the instructions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I do not see anyone who has raised their hand to speak on this item, so I can hand it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so would anyone like to?
I move approval of resolution 2020-6, designation of 1400 Dover Road.
Second by House.
Second that.
All right, I got second by House. Sorry, Commissioner Edmonds, heard him first. Under discussion, any discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. I'll begin the roll call vote. Commissioner Vena?
Commissioner Vena, can't hear you.
Yes, they keep muting me. Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair House?
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan?
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds?
Yes.
Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvick,
Yes.
Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we are on to item 2, 414 Plaza Rubio, resolution of intention to adopt a resolution of intention to hold public hearing on August 19th, 2020 to consider structure merit designation for Spanish colonial revival style residence by Mary Craig, 1926, located on 414 Plaza Rubio. Ms. Hernandez?
Yes,
Ms.
thank you.
Ms. Kinda?
Oh.
Ellen, I think you're muted.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, now we can.
Okay. So I would just invite all of the commissioners to please turn their webcams on for all of these items. I just think it'll be a little bit easier to do the roll call and for the deliberation portion of it. Thank you.
All right.
So for the next 3 items, these were all heard at the June 24th HLC designation subcommittee meeting and recommended forward for you. They're all recommended to go on the August 19th hearing, the next hearing that you'll see them next week. So this is just setting the date for this one as well as the next 2 items on your agenda.
Great, thank you. So with that, we'll open public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, please raise your hand.
And Mr. Chair, Ellen Kokinda, I do not see anyone who has raised their hand to speak on this item.
All right, great. Back to the commission for questions, discussion, or a vote. Or a motion.
I'd make a motion, Mr. Chair, to.
All right, Commissioner Uli was silent, so I'll let you jump in. All right, go for it, Commissioner
I'd make
Lenvick.
a motion to pass a resolution of intention to hold a public hearing on August 14th, I believe it is, right? August 19th for 414 Plaza Rubio.
Second.
All right, second by Uli. Under discussion, any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. Begin the roll call vote. Vice Chair House,
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Aye.
Commissioner Uli,
Aye.
Commissioner Drury,
Aye.
Commissioner Lenvick,
Aye.
Commissioner Vena,
Aye, but they keep muting me.
Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, this is Ellen Kokinda. I just want to let Mr. Vena know that I am muting him because we're picking up some background noise, just like I have at my own home. Sorry.
What'd you say? I can't hear you with the dog barking. All right.
Don't make me have to say it again.
It's the Zoom life or the whatever.
It's chaos.
Yeah. All right. So on to item 3, 3308 Calle Fresno, resolution of intention to hold a public hearing on August 19th to consider structure of merit designation of the Spanish colonial revival style residence designed by Henry Howell in 1931, located at 3308 Calle Fresno. All right. So, Ms. Hernandez, did you?
Yeah, again, this is just setting the date for August 19th. This was also recommended by the designation subcommittee, and it was by request of the owner. And it's a lovely Spanish colonial revival house with really high integrity up in San Roque. So it's a neighborhood that we don't have many historic resources designated yet. So it's exciting to have one. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, do I have, well, sorry, public comment. We'll go to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment, please virtually raise your hand. All right. Ms. Kokinda, we're good?
I do not see anyone that's raised their hands at this moment.
All right. Sounds
I
good.
love it.
Do you hear anyone raising a bark at this moment?
Did the dog
okay.
make a motion?
All right, so we have a motion.
I'll move resolution 2020-8, designation of 3308 Cali.
I'll second that.
All right, under discussion, any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. I'll begin the roll call vote. Commissioner Mahan.
Here, yes.
Commissioner Edmonds. Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Commissioner Drury.
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvik.
Yes.
Commissioner Vena.
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Aye.
Chair
And don't laugh,
Grumbine.
it's not funny.
Chair
Aye.
Grumbine. It is unanimous.
Aye.
Thank you.
I am bringing my children in next time, and we'll have some more fun background noise. Okay, so we're on to item 405 Cannon Drive, resolution of intention to adopt to hold public hearing August 19th to consider a structure of merit designation of the Spanish colonial revival style residence designed by Edwards and Plunkett in 1929, located at 405 Cannon Drive. All right, Ms. Hernandez?
Hi, Commissioners. This is another really beautiful Spanish colonial revival house up in San Roque neighborhood that was recommended by the designation subcommittee, and setting the date for August 19th so we can discuss the details at that time. I think I'll try. We have a lot of more coming on the 19th. I'll try and see if I can consolidate them so you can make one motion for all of them, maybe. Anyway, Pilar and I are trying to figure out how to consolidate these a little bit. And I know this might be something when we think about the new ordinance, why we are proposing kind of eliminating the resolution of intention step. It's a little to streamline our processes a little bit. But it is a great, wonderful building. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so with that, I'll open public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, please raise your hand, following the instructions.
Mr. Chair, I do not see anyone raising their hand at this time.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, back to the commission for comments or a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution to hold the public hearing for 405 Cannon Drive.
Second.
All right, second by Uli, motion by House. Under discussion. All right, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. I'll begin the roll call vote. Commissioner Edmonds.
Aye, but is that background noise coming from me? Because it's totally silent at my house. Do you hear that?
It could be coming from anywhere at this point.
Okay, sorry, Scott. I didn't mean to disrupt.
No problem. Commissioner Vena? Or
Yes.
I mean, sure. Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner Drury?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvik?
Yes.
Vice Chair House?
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan?
Yes.
Chair Grumbine?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Great. We're just cranking through them here. Item number 5, safe crosswalks and buffered bike lanes project. This is the archaeology report. So the safe crosswalks and buffered bike lanes project involves removal of one vehicle lane on De La Vina Street between Carrillo and Haley Street to allow for installation of a buffered bike lane. The project includes sidewalk installation, curb extensions, high visibility signage, and pavement markings installed at 5 project area intersections along De La Vina Street, including at De La Vina Street and West Victoria Street, and at Chapala Street and Haley Street. This is requesting acceptance of a Phase 1 Archaeological Resources Report prepared by David Stone, Wood Environmental and Infrastructure Solutions, Inc. All right. And welcome, Mr. Stone. All right, Ms. Plummer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before Mr. Stone makes his comments, I just want to let the commission know that Dr. Glasso has reviewed the report and agreed with the conclusions and recommendations.
All right, great. Thank you. All right. So with that, did you want, Mr. Stone, did you want to give a brief summary and before we go to public comment?
I could certainly make it extremely brief. This project is very similar to one that you looked at earlier this summer relative to streetlights in the same downtown corridor area. This only involves, however, curbs, ramps, sidewalk extensions. So the physical improvements associated with the project only extend 2 feet deep. And that 2 feet within the right-of-way is the depth that really has already been disturbed by existing sidewalks. So we have a minimally invasive project here. Our background research did not identify any archaeological concerns. There were 3 properties that were owned in the mid-19th century that extended into these right-of-ways where these improvements would occur, but no adobes existed at that point in time. Previously on the streetlight project, we were concerned about possibly encountering trash pits associated with those structures outside of the right-of-way. With this particular project, we're not concerned about disturbing those trash pits, potential trash pits associated with adobes, because the proposed improvements are only going within the depth of previously disturbed soils. So in this case, we don't have any potential impacts identified, and we don't require any monitoring during construction. The standard condition that if something unexpected were encountered would apply to this project.
All right, thank you. That's pretty good. All right, so with that, I will open public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment on the archaeology report, please follow the instructions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, if you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand using the hand icon and I will call on you and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. And I don't see anyone who wishes to speak at this time. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. All right, so back to the commission for questions. Commissioners, any questions on the archaeology report? All right, Commissioner House.
No questions, but I'd be happy to make a motion to accept the report as submitted.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by House, second by Drury. Under discussion, Ms. Kukinda.
Just ask everyone to turn on their webcams, please.
Okay. All right. Okay, so under discussion, any discussion of the item? Okay, in that case, we'll go roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Riddell. Begin the roll call vote. Commissioner Uli?
Yes.
Commissioner Drury?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenvik?
Yes.
Commissioner Vena?
Yes, yes, yes.
Vice Chair House?
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan?
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds?
Yes.
Chair Grumbine?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we are on to item number 6. And Mr. Stone, if you wouldn't mind turning off your webcam.
I'm going to see you at this point. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks. Item 6, 710 to 720 State Street, 15 to 19 East Ortega. This is a historic significance determination. Project site is adjacent to a designated city landmark, the Daily News, constructed in 1922 by George Washington Smith in the Spanish colonial revival style, and contains 2 buildings in the city's list of potential historic resources. 714 State Street, reconstructed in 1925 by Sauter and Lockard, and 718 State Street, reconstructed in 1925 by Sewell, Murphy, and Hastings. Proposed to merge the properties at 710 to 720 State Street and 15 to 19. The proposed development involves demolition of the commercial building, 710 State Street, and 15 to 19 East Ortega, and construction of a new approximately 39,000 square foot, 3- and 4-story mixed-use building with a maximum height of 48 feet. The new building will be comprised of 2,320 square feet of commercial space and 36 rental units, averaging 711 square feet per unit. The proposal includes a new ground floor parking structure of 16 parking spaces, trash enclosure, transformer, and bicycle parking. Planning Commission review is required for community benefit project exceptions to height limitations, parking modification, an open yard modification, a lot area modification for additional density. And this is a review of a staff report and public hearing to consider conclusions of staff report and HLC designation subcommittees. The building at 15 East Ortega Street does not qualify for the criteria outlined in the Santa Barbara Municipal Code to be considered a historic resource. As part Santa Barbara Municipal Code complete demolitions, if the commission declines to issue the requested demolition permit, the commission shall concurrently act to adopt a resolution of intention initiating the possible designation of the structure, site, or feature as a city landmark to the city council pursuant to the landmark designation provisions of section 2222-050. All right. So with that giant long intro, Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine and Commissioners. So after our last meeting, it was requested that I do a little more research, meet with the members of the public and their historian to further evaluate any evidence that might be on record that would make the building historic. The member of the public, I did talk to them, and they said that they are no longer pursuing the significance avenue. They're not going to pursue that, and I never did know who their historian was. They did not connect me with that person, and they sent me an email saying they will look at other means to try and save the business. So that was how that ended. However, I did provide a little more research. I put both the Sanborn maps on the report for you on the next page that shows, you know, here's the lot in 1907. That building is not there. Here's the lot in 1930. The building is there. I found the building permit in 1925 that indicates this building's there and that they're going to build a building, and it really fits this size. The building on the building permit is this size of the building. So, and I did talk to the historian at the Glen Hill Library, and he did a search for me. He couldn't find any photos, but he did find, again, that the earliest that he had on record in the old directories was a plumbing building in the 1920s, which is what the that sort of lines up with what the building permit said, as well as it was still, there was a plumbing building and company in there again in the 1940s. So I didn't come up with any more conclusive evidence that this would qualify. And again, the whole storefront was removed and replaced in the 90s. So we don't have a lot of historic material to protect there. So those are my conclusions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So with that, let's open public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, please virtually raise your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, if you wish to comment, please raise your hand using the hand icon and I will call on you. I do not see anyone who wishes to speak at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, also, I think we need to acknowledge, I think there was one letter of public comment, Ms. Plummer. You want to
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was one letter of written correspondence from Kevin Moore who is from the applicant team. So I'd ask that you acknowledge that.
Okay, so that's acknowledged as received. And so, all right, back to the commission for questions. Any questions about the report? I had a question regarding just the technicalities of things. So the verbiage, can we go to the bold paragraph at the end of the, gives us our summary. Yeah, there we go. So it says that if the commission declines to issue the requested demolition permit, the commission shall concurrently act to adopt a resolution of intention initiating the possible designation of the structure, site, or feature as a city landmark to the city council. So does that include if there was a historic, and this is just more for understanding it, but does that include, like, if it's not, if we don't think it's something is landmark worthy, but this, say we thought it was historic, it was a structure of merit, would this still, is that, it's just the process, the official process, which is potential landmark that would make it a, that would be the process that this would have to go down, basically? Or does it actually have to be a concurrent landmark track recommendation?
So the current ordinance is very specific that if you're going to deny a demolition, you have to designate it as a landmark because landmarks can't be demolished. You know, our designated structures of merit can be demolished only through overriding considerations, but they're already designated. So it is in there worded exactly that. I think that the time when they wrote that, they probably were saying if you're going to deny demolition, you're going to mean it and not make it a landmark that can't ever be demolished.
Gotcha. Okay, I just want to make it
and
clarity on that.
And the verbiage is a little bit different in the new ordinance, so we can pay attention to that when you see the next draft.
Yep, sounds good. All right, any other questions, Commissioner Edmonds?
I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Hernandez for doing this extra work. It just feels much better when we make a decision that that was done, and I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Lendick, did you have any questions? Okay. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, I'm just leaving my camera on as requested.
Good. All right.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner House.
My only question would be, what would be the appropriate motion to approve the demolition permit or to accept the staff report?
I think it's just at this time just to accept the staff report that the building's not significant, and that way we'll make that note in the file. And the demolition is part of the project, so when you see the project again.
Exactly, that makes sense. So I will make a motion to accept the staff report, finding that the building is not significant.
Second. I'll second that.
All right, motion by House. I heard, was that Uli seconding it?
Lendick.
Yeah. All right.
Lendick seconded.
Oh, you seconded it after.
Mr. Chair?
You were the seconder, Commissioner Lendick. I heard someone else before.
I'm happy to let Limvick be the second.
The first seconder? All right,
Yeah,
you're the substitute first seconder. All right, motion by House, second by Lendick.
Mr. Chair?
All right, under discussion, Commissioner Drury?
Yes, we went from question to motion without any comments.
Okay, well, now we're under discussion, so why don't we have comments, and if we need to make a substitute motion, we can.
I do have a comment. So I was hoping that hoping against hope that, although I'm not a habitué of that particular bar, that it would be somehow saved, but I understand that it's not significant except to the people on the inside. But my fond hope would be that it could somehow be folded into the proposed project. But I have no problem with the historic significance determination that Mr. Hernandez drew up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other discussion about this? All right. Thank you. All right. In that case, we'll do a roll call and vote.
This is Heidi Riedel. I will begin the roll call vote. Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Vena,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan,
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we are, gosh darn it, we're too far ahead of schedule, it looks like.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. I would suggest we take a short recess, perhaps for, let's see, it's 2:30 right now, and the next item doesn't start till 2:50. We're technically able to start within 15 minutes, but we could even take a 10-minute break if that's your discretion. So.
All right, 10 minutes, we'll go, let's see, that'll put us at 40. Yeah, let's go a 10-minute break. 10-minute siesta. All right.
Viva la.
Viva la siesta. Historic Landmarks Commission. Now we are on to item 7, downtown and waterfront city right-of-way. This is a new item, concept review. So in partnership, the city permitted bike share operator Bicycle. Sorry, I'm gonna trip over that one. B-Cycle. The Public Works Department is proposing the first phase of the pilot bike share program. When complete, the project will involve the installation of 500 bike share docks, which will serve 250 electric assist bikes and public bike share system. With the 500 docks, 300 to 350 will be located downtown or along State Street. The remaining 150 to 200 docks will be located along the waterfront. A number of these enrollment kiosks will be installed to help serve walk-up customers. These docks and bike share stations, a grouping of docks, will be located in the furniture zone adjacent to the other street fixtures, including light poles, newspaper stands, planters, and street trees, and existing bike hitching posts. Along State Street and in downtown area, these stations will consist of small groups of 2 to 6 docks along the waterfront, and in higher usage areas, this dock number may increase to accommodate additional users. This is for concept review of the color for the bike share docks and kiosks. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. All right. Oh, welcome.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, Ms. Plummer, did you have something that you wanted to start with?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So prior to the applicant giving their formal presentation, I just wanted to give a little bit of background. So this is coming from City Council direction. Public Works Transportation Planning is moving forward with the pilot bike share program, and it is set to mobilize this fall. The Historic Landmarks Commission should have received a memo regarding this, which basically outlined the process for the project. The program will involve around 500 docks, serving a fleet of 250 pedal assist e-bikes that are going to be first consolidated in the downtown and waterfront area. The specific review for HLC today is for the color and of the bike rack and kiosks. These docks will be installed, as it said in the project description, in the furniture zone with a relatively simple aesthetic that the applicant will go into in more detail in their presentation. The location and the amount of these stations are dependent on the professional analysis that has been done and vetted, and will be compliant with the city's access and parking design standards, as well as the pedestrian and bicycle master plans. Once the design has been confirmed, the team will be submitting for project design approval and final approval, as well as the public works permit for right-of-way work. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, welcome. So why don't you state your names and give us your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and HLC members, commissioners. My name is Rob Dayton, and I want to introduce to you Morgan Remaker. She's the executive director of B-Cycle, and she's our vendor who's been selected. And I want to walk you through the whole process, and we'll both be here to answer your questions. But I want to start with the City Council making the decision to implement a bike share program, which happened in May of last year. And then so we went away and we tried to figure out if we could get a bike share company that would actually be kind of, I don't know, is it too heady to say worthy of Santa Barbara? You know, when I think about bike share and our downtown, it's kind of like oil and water with some of the other programs, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So we brought B-Cycle's proposal to City Council at the end of last year, and they blessed that and set us on our course. And I want to walk through some slides to show you kind of the evolution of our thinking and why we think it's appropriate now to bring in bike share into such a place as downtown, where the sidewalks are done in a certain way and the design is really high quality. So next slide. the bike share industry really started in a docked format, and when we say docked, is the bikes were actually docked, and there's a certain amount of neatness that comes with docking systems. Next slide. In a docking system, when all the bikes are in there, you get a little bit more of an orderly feel. But then the industry quickly evolved to something else. Next slide. And that was you could check out a bike anywhere. It didn't need to be docked. And this is like the undocked system or the dockless system. You just needed a phone, and then you would put the QR code in that bike. But next slide. But what happened was with that particular format is pretty much chaos with bikes. You know, no one's out there straightening the bikes and making them look nice. Next slide. And then the challenge is too, when they are lined up and nice, you know, take one person and there's like a domino effect and they all go down, and super schleppy. As your transportation planner, I was really wondering if we could ever get a bike share system that would fit and look the look that you all have come to expect. Next slide. So it's been kind of a challenge for, you know, as I've watched this go in other cities. You know, this one's Pasadena, which is a pretty manicured city. But the bike share program did not help them in that effort. Next slide. The industry is kind of coming back to docked, which is kind of interesting. And I think that that's appropriate for our city because it provides some orderly fashion to it. This is the bike. This is a representation of the bike that we'd have on the street. It's designed to be punished and used very often. But when we were vetting B-Cycle, one of the things we told them is, of all the bikes, yours looks the most LA. Can you make it look better? And I know you're not here to decide the look on the bike, but I want to share with you that they went through a design process and started to shrink the logo size on the bike, put some decals on it that make it look a little bit friendlier and less harsh. And there's some other variations of this, but this is the bike. Next slide. And then the real reason we thought, oh my gosh, maybe bike share can be in Santa Barbara is this device. This is called the 3.0 dock. This does not require a kiosk, which, you know, I kind of suspected kiosks would not be cool on the plaza. And so we're not proposing any kiosks on the plaza. This is a standalone. It's got a cell phone in it. You activate it, and then you can you check it out and pay for it through the phone. But it's pretty small. You can see that with the bike, with the one that has the bike actually docked, it's a little bit higher than the tire, so you could get an idea of the height of it, and the width, of course, makes it so the tire can fit in it. I want to say right up front that the manufacturer, that the proprietary process they're going through for these 3.0 docks is a natural black. That's the color that it comes in. Any color we want to go beyond that, you know, is fine. The city will have to figure out a way to pay for that. But we actually thought the black looked rather nice, and we'll show you some examples of that on the plaza. Next slide. It's kind of a look of how it might feel. This is a pretty heavy location in terms of the numbers. You know, you got 6 of them, but we're trying to show you examples of where there might be more. Most are going to be 2. Would be that your typical situation. You'd see 2 together. Next slide. But we want to show you some photoshopping of what it might look like with this device. You're most likely to see them about where the hitching post is. We're not proposing to put them where any of the benches that, you know, as you know, have been removed temporarily. We would not put them in those locations. So the benches, we wouldn't, the locations where they go, the benches would still be able to come back, which we're hoping that they will. Next slide. This just gives you an idea to see in various locations, you know, variations of where they might be. This is a location, the one on the left, where you have opposing, opposite. You got 4, but they're more spread out, or 3 in triplicate on the one on the right. Next slide. It's all, of course, to your judgment. But one of the things that we are excited about is it does feel like they kind of disappear, or they're less obtrusive on the public right of way. Next slide. Just a couple more examples. Again, these are a little bit more heavy in terms of more bikes, but we wanted to show you locations where there could be more. Next slide. The foundation of this, the base, it can't just be put into the brick, of course. It needs a foundation and make it so it can't be wobbled out. So that foundation, we would propose in the plaza where there's brick to have the terracotta color matched. Next slide. Now we do, B-Cycle does require that we do have some of the kiosks. So this is the least obtrusive kiosk design that has the kind of a 3.0 dock that's on the base, and then the whole thing is screwed into a sidewalk in this case. None of these would be on the plaza downtown. The focus of these would be on the waterfront, where we'd see a little bit more heavy use of them. And then also the thing about the kiosk is you do not need to have your phone with you to check out a bike from a kiosk. You could actually just use the kiosk. But this is, we told them no advertising, very, very simple, hopefully elegant in your eyes. This is the way that would look. And let's show you some examples, next slide, of what that might look like with the bikes installed. Again, it's more orderly. The bikes can't fall over. And so the look is a little cleaner than if we had the dockless in our town, which I'm glad we're not going that direction. Next slide will show you what that might look like on the street. So places that it would be in the furniture zone up against the street is where you might find this particular dock. This is the 1.0 station as B-Cycle refers to it. Next slide. These are the locations initially that we're looking at. The green symbols are the 1.0 docks. The black are the 3.0, which are the less, smaller sizes that are done in singles, a little bit more elegant. So these are the locations initially. B-Cycle will have to be flexible to add or subtract locations based on demand. At the end of the day, this system is a point-to-point service. It's a transportation service. These are electric bikes. They're all electric bikes. They're very, very expensive bikes. And as the community uses them to get from point A to point B, and tourists use them to get from waterfront to downtown and vice versa, we'll have to work out the demand and change. We might have some come out. We might have more go in. But the idea is to keep them dispersed and not have them cluster all together. And next slide. I think that this is, we're coming up on the end of the presentation. So we're here to answer your questions and give you any feedback you need on this, but we're really looking for direction on that color. And if black is the appropriate color, again, we really like the color. And then the secondary benefit is that it won't cost the city any extra money to do that. If we do have to go to another color, I think the next question is going to be how, and we can get into that. So back to the chair. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. All right. So why don't we go to public comment now? Any member of the public wishing to comment, please raise your hand following the instructions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, so if you wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand using the hand icon and I'll call on you, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. And I do not see anyone who's raised their hand at the moment. May I ask Ms. Plummer if we received any written comment on this item?
Thank you, Ms. Kokenden, to the chair. No written correspondence was submitted. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, back to then in that case, we'll close public comment and back to the commission for questions.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Dayton, so black is what these kiosks and bike holders come in, basically. And anything else would be more costly, but are there any options?
The unfortunate thing is that, well, there is. I mean, we can paint it. We can paint it anything. I'm sure that there's a way to do it. I think it presents a lot of design challenges and wearing challenges because of the materials, kind of that anodized. It's not painted. It's the material itself that is made. It is kind of that anodized black. So
Yes.
I think it's going to be difficult to change color. The vinyl is probably going to be the way. The vinyl wrapping is going to be probably the way to do it. But it can be done, and we don't know how much it costs. We'd have to chase that down.
Yeah, so the vinyl is basically a good thing for the saltwater weather and along the Cabrillo Boulevard and Lower State. I mean, that's kind of I would imagine. But I would be interested in, and I would like to see, if can make my choice now, can I make that comment? I'd like to see just sort of a dark gray as opposed to black, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Commissioner House, followed by Commissioner Uli. Questions?
Well, I will follow up on Commissioner Drury's questions. You mentioned both anodized and you mentioned vinyl. So is it anodized aluminum, or are they wrapped in a vinyl?
Well, maybe Morgan can share what the material is made out of, but the wrapped in vinyl would be if we have to change the color.
Okay.
And
So they're black anodized aluminum.
That's correct.
Okay.
There's a plastic component to it as well, but mostly aluminum.
Okay, so presumably the vinyl is available in a lot of different colors. There's just the expense of applying the wrap to these.
I would say it's the expense, and then it's the ongoing maintenance if someone should scratch it and damage it. And of course that's another concern, in Public Works, because sometimes our answer is, well, gosh, there's just not a lot of money right now. So you might have to wait a little longer than you'd want to have something replaced.
But one thing's for sure, they're not painted. Somebody doesn't get out there with a brush and paint them. Yeah. Okay, so then my other question is, I'd like a little more information on who your users are, because obviously these have been installed in other places, and I'm curious if you have targeted users, or just from experience, that it'll be mostly tourists or mostly locals, age profile, how long they're rented for, how far do they go? I'd like to know more about that.
That's great. So Commissioner House and Chair Commissioner House, what I'll start with is what the city's trying to target, and then I'll hand it over to Morgan to tell you kind of where the gravity is, because there's a little bit different. What the purpose that the council's after is a point-to-point trip that you might make. Let's just say if let's say you Uber downtown, or you live downtown, and you just want to make a point-to-point trip, and you want to do that very quickly, and you're a member of B-Cycle, there's a bike, point-to-point trip. I don't have to worry about locking. I'm not paying while I'm in my destination. It's a very quick trip. The length of the trip is the duration of the trip, because you pay for duration. We do understand that tourists may want to do this. One of the things that's very popular with hotels, if you're familiar with the industry, you've probably been down State Street and seen them, is that a lot of hotel rooms come with bikes. They're having bikes on the premises already. So we get that tourists may want to use them, and that's fine. Point-to-point tourist application would be great and fit with what the city's purposes are. I think where we get outside of and what we want to get away from is if a tourist said, hey, you know what, let's just go on the beachway. We're not going anywhere. We're going to go down the beachway to Alice Keck, we're going to go down to the bird refuge, and then we're going to turn around and come back and dock at the same place we started. That's not the kind of use that we want to encourage, and there's ways around that. And I'll hand it over to Morgan to give you kind of where the gravity of the industry is in a place like Santa Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. Dayton, and thank you, Commissioner. We have launched over 50 bike share programs across the country, and we own and operate 2 directly. And the one I'll compare most to is Madison, Wisconsin, and that's the one that we plan to set Santa Barbara up most similarly too. And we expect a mix of local and tourists, but probably more locals. In Madison, we see 80% local ridership. And whether it's locals or tourists, rides typically are shorter than an hour. That's kind of our standard time frame, and most people stay under that time frame. So like Mr. Dayton was saying, you know, it's more of that point-to-point ridership. So those are kind of the things that I would point to. And as far as the distance, accordingly, it's you know, kind of more of that point-to-point as well.
Thank you.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you. Other questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Mahan?
Yeah, there's been at least one, maybe several articles in the news press about the trouble with bicycles on the State Street now that it's been closed and open to the restaurants to occupy the street. And bicycles are supposed to be walked, I believe, on State Street. So how does that work when you have all these bicycles that people will not want to walk them on State Street?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Mahan, that is such an awesome question. I expect nothing less. So the State Street where bicycles are not allowed or you're supposed to walk them is the 500 block. We just we've been encouraging that. Council just did authorized the administrator to actually fine for that now. So we implemented that this weekend. You are allowed to ride everywhere else in the street. And, you know, this is an emerging conversation for our community. And I don't want to get too ahead of what might be the answers, as the council's just formed a subcommittee of Megan Harmon and Oscar Gutierrez and Kristen Snedden to talk about what is the future of State Street and what might that look like. And it's going to be a public process and involve lots of people. It's going to be a big discussion for this commission. In terms of what we're proposing now is the proposal is we're assuming that bikes will remain on the plaza to some extent, at least for the near future. If let's just surmise though that the council ended up and the city decided we're going to move in a different direction, and now we're going to form a capital project. The time that's going to take before we get to the end and something's constructed is a very long time. I would propose it somewhere between, lightning speed, 3 years from now. So this proposal it would be for now, and then if we talk about some future capital project, obviously that capital project would have to adjust based on the outcomes of that capital project. For State Street Plaza and whether there's bikes on it or not. I've got opinions about that, but I'm not sure they're helpful unless you really want to hear them.
And another question, I don't understand the charge. I mean, you talk about point to point. So if a bike is picked up there, I'm looking at the map, and if it's picked up at the upper end of State Street there, that little black spot at the upper end of State Street, and then they ride down to the green clear over to the east, they would get charged for that distance. Is that the way it works?
Yep.
So, but if they take one out down on the beach there by a motel and they ride down to the bird refuge and then ride back, they don't get charged anything? Is that because there's no point to point then?
Well, they would get charged, and actually we've been in a little bit of discussions as to, how to kind of discourage that. We have a couple businesses in town that rent bicycles for that purpose, and some of them are electric, and they do about 100,000 trips per year in our community for tourists, and we want to make this service not compete too much with that one. So the way around that is that if a bike is that the price escalates the longer the time is out, and we still have to work that out with Morgan and her team. But that's how we would deal with to kind of discourage that trip where someone's using it as a rental, just to ride around and come back to the same point. But yes, they would be charged.
And my last question is these docks, which are black, and apparently there is no competition in this United States for other docks that may be different colors? Is that the situation?
Well, yes, and I think we're actually pretty fortunate that that B-Cycle actually makes a dock. This is the part where I feel comfortable even coming before this board, because I know that it has to be a really nice it has to be a nice design and fit, and no one on the market, and Morgan maybe knows differently, but I have not seen anything like this 3.0 dock. Maybe we can go back some slides to the 3.0 dock and just look at it again. There's nothing like the individual cell phone. Looks kind of like a bike. That looks kind of like a bike rack. There's nothing like that. And when we first got our hands on one, I've got one here in the office, and we started putting it on State Street and taking pictures of it. The team was just relieved, because they do disappear more than anything else that we could offer, and the undocked system just seemed like it would be chaos in terms of the look and feel of downtown. So to answer your question, this is the team that has this device. Morgan, is there anyone else that has this that you know of?
No, this is our new technology based on over a decade in the industry, but also adapting to those new trends of needing more flexibility and adapting to communities like Santa Barbara. So we're really excited that it kind of takes that orderly nature of docked, but makes it so it doesn't take up as much space and really fits in a lot better to the right of way.
Thank you, thank you, Rob and Morgan and Mr. Chair. That's my questions.
All right, Commissioner Lenvick.
Yes, my question is, these appear to be electric powered bikes?
They are.
So what is the power source to charging to your 3.0 station?
I'm so glad you asked. Commissioner Grumbine and Commissioner Ledbeck, sorry, Lenvick.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
I've only known you for 50 years.
I've only known you for 50 years. It's good to see you, by the way. Hey, so Morgan, can you walk them through your process? And maybe in the slides, if you could back up to a side view of the bike so that they can get a view of the battery in the back, that would be great. You'll understand how that there. You can see that picture. You can kind of see in the back tire, there's a battery, but Morgan, walk us through that process.
Absolutely. This is designed by our parent company, Trek Bicycle, along with Bosch, to be a best-in-class e-bike. And the battery is right along the side of that tire. It lasts about 30 miles, and we track that distance. And then we have a team that monitors the battery level and swaps the batteries out in the field to make sure that the consumers always have a really good experience of a fully charged battery. And the consumer can see that right on the front of the bike.
You can see the amount of battery left.
That's right.
So you are running around town expending on a gasoline powered vehicle, expending a lot of time idling your car, so on and so forth, while you're changing out batteries. Is that correct?
We actually plan to find a space in downtown so that we can ride electric bikes to swap electric bike batteries.
Oh, that was a good one.
Wow, look at that.
All right. So,
all right, Commissioner.
That is my question. Second question. If you've got 300 bikes, you have more than 300 docking stations, because you've got to hope that when a guy gets off the bike, he's got a station to put his bike into.
Yeah, Morgan, why don't you tell him the ratio on that? Just because that's a great point, Commissioner Lenvick. That's actually a great point.
Really good point. We usually aim for 1.5 to 1.7 ratio, so that exactly that you don't show up and have a full set of docks and nowhere to return your bike. And again, our team does monitor that all the time to try and move bikes around if they need to, if they aren't full in a certain spot.
So then, I think you mentioned this was a time-related charge as opposed to a distance charge. And
charge, yep. Mm-hmm.
And so if someone wants to get off his bike and leave it at a point where there are no empty stations, how does the time stop when he puts that bike on the ground like there was no dock around it?
Yeah, really good question. It is time-based. So if it's a kiosk location, they'll be able to select an extra 15 minutes to go to another station. Otherwise, we handle it through our customer service and make sure that if that happens, somebody is refunded and we take care of them.
Great questions.
Mr. Chair?
Any other, yeah, Commissioner House.
I have a follow-up to that question. If the emphasis is on point-to-point trips, there's a lot of points you might be going to where I don't see black dots for these things. So that kind of eliminates a lot of possible uses for these bikes.
Excellent. Yeah. So Chair Grumbine and Commissioner House, this is our initial pilot program. So we want to see that before we go out to the west side and east side with docks, Upper East started to get in the Upper State Street area. We want to see the system work. We want to see it evaluated. We want to see people happy with it. This is the pilot program, the initial foot in the pool, so to speak, to see. We know it'll work in this area. Let's see it work. Let's see the ridership data, and then see how B-Cycle adjusts to the flows and manages the project. We want to see all those things work. And then you're right. You guessed right. Then we would expand it to other areas of the city so that you could come from the east side to downtown or back.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lundvik?
Oh, so, Mr. Dayton, so you don't see your client being on Milpa Street?
They could. Yeah, absolutely. They could be on Milpa Street. There's a little bit less room.
By this layout. Not by this layout.
Little bit. No, you're right. Not in the pilot program. We wouldn't do that. But yes, Milpa Street. If this works out, we see this work. City people are comfortable. Leaders are comfortable with this, and we see the management really work. We trust it will, but we want to see it work. And then we would look at Milpas. We would look at the West Side Commercial District, the Mesa Commercial District. Other, maybe Henry's Beach, other places where you might want to have a destination to.
Would you say City College would not be a demand location?
Oh, City College, absolutely. It's a very elegant way of tying City College into downtown. As a matter of fact, I think with the pilot program, we're not showing them because they're on private property and they're out of your district, but we're looking at some City College locations where students could use the bikes to come downtown.
Commissioner Lundvik, I just wanted to do a follow-up. This application is specific to the Historic Landmarks Commission area. There will be another one that's going to the Architectural Board of Review for areas that are specific to that board and are outside of HLC jurisdiction. Thank you.
All right, great, thanks. I had a question. And I know it's focused on color, but what about and I know that the design to some degree to a great degree is specific to the company and what they're manufacturing, but and it does look like a nice design in general. So the question becomes, when you see a lot of the pictures that you're showing on State Street, and that almost everything else, metal or iron, is a designed piece specific to Santa Barbara. So the hitching posts, the lamp posts, the trash cans, the newspaper stands, everything is Santa Barbara metal designed, maybe except for the some of the electrical boxes and some of the utility boxes. But we even try to design those. So what? And I know this is color specific right now, but design-wise, and this, what has been the thinking along that lines, and what are some options for that? What's been the discussion? Why is it? Because, for example, and I'll prime it with some. We reviewed one of those R2D2 looking pay units for the parking, right? And had them come up with some certain designs that at least made it look a little less out of the box, R2D2-ish, for the parking, some of the parking areas. So is there an option for that? Has that been looked into? Some sort of a way of making a U shape or some sort of a box that doesn't make it look so so any city-ish?
Yeah, Chair Grumbine, it's excellent question. I'm very familiar with the shrouds that were the iron shrouds that were done in the waterfront to hide the Luke 2 stations, which are the parking stations. You know, it's a really good question. I think that one of the reasons we haven't done bike share in Santa Barbara is, you know, part of the presentation, it just wasn't ready, didn't look right. But the other thing is that in the past, we would have to pay for bike share. We would have to pay. So we would hire a company to come in and do bike share. In this case, we're not hiring, we're not paying, unless the colors change, we're not paying for anything. It's more a permission to operate in the city streets. So if we started doing, you know, trying to design a shroud and put it on it, and you know, just from my experience and knowing in downtown parking what those numbers look like, we could look at it, but I'm just going to guess that it's going to make it so that we couldn't afford it, or we'd have to, you know, council would have to come up with the money to do that. We haven't looked at actually doing that yet, but you know, it's completely fair comment.
Okay, thanks.
Mr.
Lendick,
Chair?
did you have another question? Oh, okay, Commissioner Drury.
Yes, please. So, Mr. Dayton, I guess I'll just have to be blunt, and I guess I've been thinking about myself. I live really close to downtown. It's my hometown. I know it well. Why would I get on a bike? What would I use it for? I'm down by the public library and I go, I think I'll try one of these bikes, but I have no place to go, particular. And what's the point of the program?
Great question. So Chair Grumbine and Commissioner Drury. So this is bike share is something that City Council has had in the general plan for about 12 years. It's something they're very excited about. I'm not sure that you're the best example of why that these are designed for, but I do encourage you to get out there and get on a bike and try it. I think that you'll have a lot of fun. The electric bike is definitely a gateway drug to owning one. I'm a testament to that. But yeah, I think that these are designed for people who are more on the car-free side, came to downtown without a car, and you know, they're just late. They're just late. I'm not gonna walk. I don't have time to walk down there. I'm just gonna get on. I'm just gonna get on the bike. I'm a member. I'm part of the system. I'm really into it. And actually, Morgan, maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of your clientele that you're familiar with. You know, who's your ideal candidate, so to speak, in answer to Commissioner Drury's question?
Thank you. Well, I love your comment about the gateway drug, because we love getting more people on bikes. That's part of our mission, is to change the world by doing that. But it's a lot of different kind of people. It's what you talked about. But we also saw in Madison, people who rode B-Cycle, 37% of them said they were less likely to use their car. And so that's really powerful information. So it's people using it instead of short car trips. People talked about saving money on taking a bike instead of calling an Uber or a Lyft. So it is those short trips that could have been a different method of transportation, and hopefully getting people out of single-use vehicles and just offering a transportation alternative. Especially recently, people are liking biking as a socially distant method of transportation as well.
All right, okay. Commissioner Drury, that way you can have a friend and have a bike ride at the same time.
Thank you very much.
We'll ride 6 feet apart. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions before we go into comments? All right. In that case, why don't we open it up for comments now? We'll let you guys know if we need you back for any questions along the way. All right, Commissioner Lendick.
Yes, I don't like putting myself in a position of defending Rob Dayton. Very difficult. Very difficult. But if we are running around, jumping up and down, saying we've got to provide affordable housing downtown, we've got to provide more housing downtown. Not only that, we're not going to provide space to park your car downtown. What more do we want to do than enable people who choose not to own a bike and have it in the bike locker in their new building, at least to be able to get on a bike and go about their business? It may be that they're going down to working at the beach and they're living on the 800 block of State Street. To me, it makes eminent amount of sense that you would have the ability to quickly grab a bike if you are living downtown in that environment that we're trying to promote at the present time. So I think it's a good idea. Also, and this may shock some people, I think that from the standpoint of how we want to accomplish this in as economical a manner as possible, that I personally have no problem with a black little stand.
I am shocked.
Now, yeah, I agree. I'm shocked. I think that the stand-up kiosk that's there with the little round top on it, probably I would not venture should be black. It might be more appropriate to be something else, but I believe the little thingamajigs that hold the bike in place, got no problem being black. No problem. Like I say, I don't know. There are very few, I think, of these stand-up kiosks or pay points in the plan, and if those have got to be, painted or vinyl wrapped or whatever, so be it. I think, however, we should be real careful about alternative exterior finishes that end up looking crappy after the first year, that we would not have if we had an enameled, baked enamel finish or anodized finish that comes with the standard unit. So those are my comments. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good place to start. And I'm really impressed that we're getting these at little or no cost to start seeing whether or not it works. Now, I've got some complaints about what Rob Staten's doing to our streets, however. And
that's not for this one. All right, Commissioner Mahan.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to a question. Is the bicycle that we're seeing white with a little green triangle on it, would that be the standard bike that we would be using?
That is the standard bike. However, we have variations of them. That's the one that that we're most attracted to in terms of softening of the industrial look.
And they would all be the same. So throughout the city, be the white with the little green triangle or whatever. They would all look the same.
They could either be the same. They'll all be white. They could either have variations in the triangle and the basket. Those are the two areas where they have variations: the basket and the triangle.
I tend to agree with Commissioner Lindvik in his comments. The one thing that concerns me a little bit is that the city is not spending any money on this program. There isn't any reason why the city shouldn't spend some money. I don't know exactly what they would spend it on, but
well, we can figure that out.
Yeah, I think that I don't think we should necessarily think that a free lunch is just the perfect thing to do. Maybe there's some places where we need to spend a little money to make something better, and maybe these tall kiosks are a place where with the circle on top, maybe that's a place where some money could be spent to decorate them in some way. I don't think painting them is the right thing to do, because that's not a permanent situation. And I think the anodized is a good way to go, but maybe there would be some kind of an element that would drop down over them or something like that. It may be that you need to hire a designer of some sort to look into what would be possible of alternatives to that large upright kiosk. That might be a place where the city could spend a little money, and we could look at several designs. Thank you.
Commissioner House?
Well, Mr. Chair, this may shock some people, but I largely agree with Commissioner Lenvik, except on State Street, in the State Street Plaza. I frequent State Street, especially on Friday. I go out for lunch, and so I observe a lot of these bikes, and the street has become littered with signs posted, no trick riding, ride with courtesy, et cetera, et cetera. It is a problem. And I see pedestrians taken aback when a bike rides too close to them. I see younger riders showing off. So I think it's entirely inappropriate, considering that the State Street Plaza has become a pedestrian plaza, to introduce bicycles there to encourage more of this. And if the point is point-to-point transportation, then you want to get somewhere. And you're not going to get somewhere fast if there are State Street ambassadors out there telling you to walk your bike or to slow down. I think that for the length of the State Street pedestrian plaza, which I hope becomes permanent, I think it's a great idea. I think maybe it should be considered that these bicycle stands, whatever we call them, I forget, maybe should be located on Chapala and Anacapa streets. You know, I did some research because I've been to Europe, and there are some beautiful pedestrian streets, usually incorporating some kind of trolley that's sleek and modern. But I don't recall seeing bicycles, and my wife recalls seeing signs that say no bicycles. And I Googled online for pedestrian streets in the world, and very rarely did I see any with bicycles on them. So, you know, I think the context has changed since this concept came up, or City Council's direction came up. And I really applaud this. I think it's wonderful. I would use them. But, you know, now that the State Street Plaza has gone pedestrian, I think we really need to reconsider whether there should be any there. As far as making them look more Santa Barbara-like, I do have a similar concern that it is what it is, and that trying to put lipstick on the pig, I don't know if it makes it any better. I would wonder if it's possible that there's a dark bronze anodized color that might be an alternative. But I think any other structure that wraps around it, you know, needs to get painted and is going to get damaged and is vulnerable, just like the trash cans have always been vulnerable. And I don't think a vinyl wrap on them would be an improvement. So those are my thoughts on all of this. I think it's a great idea. I think that just not on State Street.
All right. So Ms. Plummer, did you have something that you wanted to say on? Oh, sorry, you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to remind the commission that the concept review today is really a focused discussion on the color of the bike docks and kiosk itself. That'll give the applicant direction for when they come back for project design approval and final approval at a later date. It's not really intended to be a concept review on the location and number. So, you know, I know you've been incorporating comments so far regarding the color, but yeah, just continue to do that.
So,
thank you.
And what about the design itself? Because that seems like, is this within our purview or not, in terms of the design of these stations?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Mr. Dayton has given a little bit of a response to that. This is what they're looking to do at this point in time, and it is their preferred option. I think any other design that they wanted to do, I'm not sure how flexible it'll be as far as costs go. That is definitely a constraint for this proposal. I don't know if Mr. Dayton wants to add any additional information about that, but right now, this is the desired design, and specific comments on the color itself.
Mr. Chair, could I
Yeah,
add something?
Commissioner
more? State Street has taken a lot of hits. Besides the vacant storefronts, we've lost probably the majority, maybe a large majority of the benches on State Street. We've lost some fountains, and now we're going to have a proliferation of these. So I'm uncomfortable with being told that all we can comment on is the color, because at some point I would have no choice but to vote in opposition to project design approval if, you know, that was the only thing they were interested in listening to. So I think it's important that we offer up our feelings, our thoughts, our opinions about this whole proposal.
Ms. Palmer, did you have anything, any additional?
No, I definitely appreciate your comments, Vice Chair House. You know, and I do think it's good to express those. I just want to remind the commission that this is under City Council direction. So they are doing a pilot program for this area. I think you can comment on the design to an extent. I would just remind you what the applicant made in their presentation was there are cost constraints associated with it. So we want to make sure that the program is feasible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Uli? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Well, that would help if I turned the microphone on, wouldn't it? Otherwise, you got to read my lips. I failed to hop in on the banter of questions, so let me offer a question and then a comment. I didn't hear the applicant answer the question of how the battery gets charged. These things have to hook up to an electrical source of some kind, I'm sure.
Yeah, so sorry about that, Chair Grumbine and Commissioner Uli. So the batteries, what Morgan was explaining is the batteries get collected and they get taken back to their shop where they charge them in the shop, and then they're redistributed back into service. But when one battery's taken out, a fresh one's put in. So a bike doesn't sit on the street ever without a charge.
Thanks. So this is not a charging locked station. Okay, I got it. Well, in concept, since this is a concept review, I like the idea. You know, I think it's an appropriate amenity for a city that wants to be walkable. And as Commissioner Limbeck pointed out, if we're encouraging housing in our downtown core and encouraging people to get out of a car, you got to give them some alternate way of traveling. It's either that or a pile of skateboards. I don't mind the color. Frankly, I don't mind the color. It's, you know, just think of it as a wrought iron rack, you know, and if there was a majority interest in changing the color, I think the color should match the other street hardware, street lamps and bike racks and et cetera, so that it blends in with the rest of the hardware that's on the street. I don't have a strong opinion of whether it should be on the State Street corridor or on Japala or Anacapa. I think the ridership information is going to prove what works best. You know, this is a service, basically. You know, the city is allowing a service that doesn't cost it anything. And so I'm sure because it's a capitalist world and these are profit-driven companies, they'll figure out where the money is being generated and deploy these things where that is happening. And so I like the idea. I'm comfortable with the color and the shape and design and look.
All right, Commissioner Edmonds.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to go in sort of reverse order from Commissioner Uli and start with, you know, I like the color. I'm not offended by it at all. I think the stand is attractive. I see these all over Barcelona, or something similar at least to it, and they're used all the time. I don't know if they're e-bikes or regular bikes, but they're, certainly used. I think it's a great idea for us. I'm all for whatever we can do to help the environment. And then jumping over to Commissioner Hauser or Vice Chair House's comments, I have to say I do agree with him in regards to State Street. So not all of State Street, but part of it. Now that we have restaurants and are using it differently. So maybe my question to Mr. Dayton would be, and I'm sorry that I don't already know the answer to this, but I know that we're doing new bike lanes downtown. And are these places that you had on the map coordinating with those new bike lanes?
Great question, Chair Grumbine, Commissioner Edmonds. We have bike lanes on the street now. We've been talking about, but pre-COVID, we were talking about doing a cycle track, which would be half the street with one-way vehicles up. I think now we're in a different world altogether. If I can see where the wind's blowing, it's blowing into a plaza that doesn't have any vehicles. I'm hearing that all the time. I think the challenge for us all, and I'll just say this kind of off the grid, I have no problem with where you guys are going in the conversation, and definitely will entertain. You guys are the leaders of this look and feel, and so it's really important. I think the question for all of us is that if we're going to have a street that's closed to vehicles, the number one challenge for us all is going to be activity of the street. The street has to remain active. And right now, the street is not very active compared to other streets. It's about 12:30 to 6 is kind of the window of activity. Just as lunch is getting started, and then just maybe at dinner. We've expanded that dramatically with what we've put in the street, and now you're seeing a lot more activity. The bikes are about 50% of the activity that we're seeing in the street. So I think the question is going to be a very interesting one for us all. And I think the first question is, what are we designing for? What is the purpose of State Street? And then I'm sure if we can all agree on that, the design can fall in line. And there's many different aspects we have to handle, including the fire department putting a hook and ladder down the middle. So I think it's a really great conversation. And I just want to emphasize that if we get to that conversation and we change, we will shift this program to adapt to whatever that is.
Okay, Commissioner Edmonds, does that answer your question? And did you have any more comments?
Sorry, I had my microphone off. Well, I know, for example, we've got a great bike lane on Cannon Perdido. We've got another great bike lane on Bath Street. So it would be nice to be able to have, and maybe they're there and it's just too hard for me to tell from the map. Maybe the kiosks are accessible to those bike lanes that we already have. That's just my last comment.
Okay. Commissioner Lendick?
Yes, one last comment. If there is concern that the bikes on State Street maybe aren't going to be as desirable as we might like them to be, Rob Dayton might consider, since these are point-to-point transits he's aiming at, might consider simply ganging the bike parking up around the corner on the side street on Figueroa or Anapamu or Cannon Perdido, or get them off State Street, get them to the side. The people that are going to be using these point-to-point from their residence to their next business meeting or whatever are going to know where they're located. And if you're a tourist, you don't want them to use it. So the tourists on State Street aren't going to find them or whatever. Get them off to the side, and that may solve the problem of conflicts on State Street. I'm through.
Okay. Okay, and then I'll add to those comments, my comments on it. Can you flip through a few of these? I wanted to get to a State Street in terms of the so maybe down across, a couple more of those, and that yeah, so that's a fine one. So, or that one. Or that one, you can stop on any of those. So my biggest concern is with, as my question alluded to, is with what the overall look of these are. And I understand the reasoning, I understand the importance of getting, and I'm super supportive of the project itself. I think it's, I think with some tweaks, depending on if there ends up being too many bikes on State Street or not, or however that is, I think that can get, the program can get tweaked, I'm sure, to fit at least the majority of the needs. And I'm very, very supportive of it as a great concept for getting people around without cars, both environmentally, but also just in terms of traffic and congestion and needing cars downtown and all those things. So I think it's great on a lot of different levels, so many levels. The only thing that doesn't seem to have worked out yet is the fact that this is a different language than the rest of our hardware on State Street or in El Pueblo Viejo. And the only thing that I could think of that's closest is actually the bike loops that we've approved, which are super simple loop tubes. But these are a little more complex, and they're starting to push past like a pure utility. And even even the bike loop itself, it seems a little bit on the overly simplistic side. And I just sort of fast forward 10 years or 5 years or 20 years, and I think of all the things that get added as technology changes or as some other use changes. And I think that we have to, as a city, to keep a lot of the beauty is in the subtlety and in the details. And although this isn't the end of the world to have these are nice looking bike stations and bike racks. And any other city, I would say, or the vast majority of, especially California cities, I would say is totally great, fine, no reason to change it. But I do think that because of the language of Santa Barbara, it is important that we stay consistent with our language as much as we can. And I don't think just off the cuff, looking at it as a design solution, I think there's a number of pretty simple solutions out there to make it a little more Santa Barbara-ish. It doesn't have to be this amazing wrought iron creation, but I think there are some simple ways of making it a slightly more like it fits in with the other hardware on our street. So I would at least want comments or want to be supportive of comments that would at least ask for that as a studying, while being totally supportive of the actual project. And color-wise, I do see the argument for, this is a good example of it. You have black wrought iron, so like in the balconies above and in brackets and arms that hold signage for stores and things like that. So I think the black of the black color is appropriate, even though it's not Malaga green or some of the other hardware colors that are on the street. It's still a material that's found in the color that's found in El Pueblo Viejo. So I think it's legit on the color side of things. So those are my comments. I think this was specifically asking about color, but I would say that some of the other, sorry, hold on, let me just mute for a second. I got a siren. Okay, so some of the comments that I heard that were from the commissioners that seemed to have agreement on were that in general, the commission was in favor of, is supportive and happy to see this proposal coming forward with having more bicycles downtown. There was some concern with the amount of bicycles on State Street, and we also understand that that things are in flux right now, and so we appreciate the transportation discussion with us that the program will be flexing as things go forward, depending on what the use of State Street is decided on, the vision for State Street that is eventually decided on, as it is in discussion right now. And then I did hear the majority, or if not all, commissioners okay with at least the black, and there might have been, I don't know if that was because this is a proposed color. I think the majority were in favor of it or were accepting of it, as opposed to doing something like a vinyl shroud or something of a different color as the alternate. So the color itself was in favor of. And I don't know how other commissioners feel, whether they feel as strongly as I do about the need to look at some form of a simple shroud or simple covering, and it doesn't have to be a full covering, just a partial covering, or at least looking at that as an option for going forward. But I'll leave it up to whoever wants to make a motion to discuss that as well, or to put that into a motion as well. And so this is a concept review, right? So this is a motion with direction. Is that correct, Pilar?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so it is conceptual level review at this point. The applicant will take your comments and, if there's any design edits that they need to do, they will do those prior to coming back for either an additional concept review or for project design approval and final approval. So it would be an indefinite at this point in time, since there isn't a date that they have determined to come back. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so is there anyone that wants to venture a motion? Commissioner House?
I guess I better try my hand at it. Make a motion for an indefinite continuance with the comments that the commission is very appreciative of this bike share program and is excited to see it move forward. I think you already made a number of comments that'll get wrapped into there, but it should include the majority of the commission finds the black color acceptable, but feels that some ornamentation or shroud should be considered to move the design more in the direction of being appropriate for El Pueblo Viejo. And that it should be considered whether or not it's appropriate to have these bicycle stands on what is becoming the pedestrian section of State Street, and to consider moving them onto the parallel side streets or the perpendicular side streets, given that their intention is for point-to-point transportation. Anything else we need to add?
I think that if those are Commissioner Mahan, I see you.
I'll second that motion, and
okay.
I think that in the indefinite continuance that we're going to approve, I think it would be important if transportation, or Rob Dayton, or the city council, or whomever can make a decision on how they want to use State Street. I think that's really a very important part of the puzzle. If there's a lot of, if the businessmen feel that the bicycles on State Street are really a problem, and city council goes along with that, then that's going to change the direction to some degree of how these things, or where these docks are stationed. I personally like the idea of seeing them around the corner from State Street, and maybe the bikes then would use Anacapa and Chapala Street more than State and not State Street. But I'll second the motion that you made.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second under discussion. Commissioner Lenvick?
Yes, I would like the motion maker to clarify when he talks about maybe giving a little bit of Spanish character to the elements. And I believe that we all were in agreement that the bike rack itself was acceptable in black without any modification. But I think you were asking him to maybe look at the stand-up pay kiosk in the 1.0, the taller element only. Is that correct?
I should clarify.
That was, yeah.
I was talking about the 3.0 bike docks. The tall pay kiosks that I understand would be largely on Cabrillo Boulevard. I don't really see those changing drastically, but I think that in El Pueblo Viejo on State Street and on other surrounding areas, some additional ornamentation or shroud, as suggested by the chair, should be considered. But I'm not talking about
Commissioner Lendrick, I think it was Commissioner Mahan. I think it was Commissioner Mahan who originally said he thought it should be on the kiosk, and he wasn't worried about it on this little 3-point thing. And I was making the argument that I thought it actually should be on both. But seeing that these are so prolific, I thought that it should be on this as well. And those are the pictures that we were looking at when we were talking about it. So that's good to clarify, Commissioner House, what your motion is, and then Commissioner Mahan, if you're still okay with that as the second. So Commissioner House, your motion currently is for just this 3-point connection, the smaller piece.
Let's say most importantly, the 3.0 docks, and they should also consider what changes could be made to the 1.0 kiosks to bring them more into the language of El Pueblo Viejo.
Okay, and then Commissioner Mahan, are you okay with that as a second?
I am okay with that. I'd like to, can we go back to the picture that you had brought up just at I think it was the Apple store or something. Can we go back to that photograph? It showed the couple, yeah, there we go. You know, if you look up at those Juliet balconies up there, they're very, very simple. Those Juliet balconies could be in Camarillo or any place. And the thing that really makes them more Santa Barbara are the little scrolls underneath. And I think that I don't have a pointers, but I think that these, you know, a little scroll or something very simple on the sides of these would be acceptable. Once again, I think that maybe the city needs to hire somebody to study that and bring something back before us. Thank you. But I approve the motion as we've discussed it.
Okay, Commissioner Lendick, under discussion.
Yeah, I'm not going to vote against the motion, but I really think that you start putting lipstick on the pig and you end up looking really stupid. And I think these little bike stands are as simple and as unobtrusive as you can possibly get them. And I would, I mean, bikes aren't traditional. You don't find bikes in,
Oh, hey. There's bikes are in the 1800s even.
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, okay, but you don't find a fire hydrant port, that's on the building there. I just think we've got to kind of draw the line at some point and say this is something we can live with. Now, like I say, I'm going to support the motion, but I'm certainly against taking and dial up the little stands that the bike goes into.
Mr. Chair, I would just say that
Okay,
I
Commissioner.
agree with that. The point isn't to design it for them or to specify the level of ornamentation, but that it should be considered, and they can hear us in the comments we've made that, yes, it doesn't need to get dolled up excessively, just some simple thing to contribute to the feeling of State Street, El Pueblo Viejo.
All right. All right. Any other discussion, Commissioner Uli?
I call the question.
All right. Well, I think according to the official rules, it takes a 2/3 vote to as we got instructed. But
just say all in
favor. Unless there's any other discussion, we'll do the vote. We'll call vote. I just want to make sure that everyone has had a chance to say something on the motion if they really feel strongly about it. So, all right. Any other discussion? All right. In that case, we'll call the question. We'll do our roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. I'll begin the roll call vote. Commissioner Drury?
Aye.
Commissioner Lenvik?
Aye.
Commissioner Vena?
Commissioner Vena, I think you might be muted. And it might be someone else that muted you.
No, it looks like he is self-muted.
Yes,
At
that's
this time?
correct. Mr. Vena, if you are there, you just need to click on the microphone icon and I will send you an unmute request as well.
Okay, can we come back to him at the end?
Sure, I'll proceed. Vice Chair House,
Aye.
Commissioner Mahan,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
and do we have Commissioner Vena back yet? Perhaps he stepped away or...
Ms. Rydell, if he doesn't come on in another few seconds, I would just mark.
Mark him absent. All right. Chair Grumbine,
Aye.
all right, we will put down Commissioner Vena as absent for this vote, and other than that, it is unanimous.
All right, great, thank you very much. Okay, and if unless there's anything else, we will adjourn the meeting, and it'll still be 3:59. So we did it before 4 o'clock. Great
Viva
job.
la fiesta.
Thank you,
Viva la
everybody.
fiesta.
Such
All
as
right.
it is, what's left of it.
See you in September.